We're standing here on the rooftop of one of the most exciting projects that I have ever acquired in my career as a commercial real estate investor. But after 18 months of owning it, we had to let it go. Here's what happened. All right, we're here at Newell Tower in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We bought this property in January of 2021, coming right out of the pandemic. And today I'm gonna take you on a tour through the building, show you what our plans were, and why we decided to let it go. We're standing in the lobby here at Newell Tower, and we had demoed all this out, had this absolutely hideous 1980s glass block wall, which I don't think anybody really appreciates anymore. Might have been cool back in the day, not now. And this was gonna be a cafe, a little coffee shop that we were gonna have as kind of an amenity for the building, because we were gonna have apartment residents upstairs. Our plans were for micro apartment units, which we'll show you here in a minute, but they would have had lobby access through that side. But yeah, the lobby has these beautiful vaulted ceilings that you rarely see in new construction nowadays, which really lends to bringing natural light into the space and giving it this really unique feel. And then back over here, there's actually no windows in the back of the building. It's a traditional old school downtown structure, so no natural light, but it has, as you can see, all of these glass walls for the office spaces. So we were actually gonna do some maker creator space. This style of storefront glass is actually pretty expensive to come back and do. And since we already had it here, we figured why not take advantage of it? Each of these little spaces was gonna be a different little business that would be operating out of there, you know, like a hat maker, shoemaker, maybe custom suits, something to that extent, so that we could really kind of celebrate the craft that those businesses bring. All right, so one unique piece about this property is that there's actually two buildings on it that are connected. So we referred to the other one as the annex building, which we were gonna keep as office space. So let's get over there and check that one out. This office, which is still stuck in the 1980s, was the county's IT department. So the power's not on in here because of course everything in the building has been demoed, but this was the old server room. So under this tile floor right here, which you can actually pull up and access, there are miles and miles of cables that were serving these servers over here. And this was interesting because the amount of power that a server room of this scale would require meant that the infrastructure to the building was better than almost any other building in downtown Chattanooga. There was over $180,000 of additional infrastructure in this space, which was a huge value add. One of the things that we thought was gonna be great for this space and why we were gonna keep it as office is Chattanooga is experiencing a tech boom. It's actually got some of the best internet, if not the best internet in the country, because over 10 years ago, the city treated fiber like a utility and installed it everywhere. Elevator's not working, so this is gonna be a lot of fun making that trek up 9 stories. I'm gonna take you guys down into the basement and show you what we were gonna turn into a speakeasy. These stairs are actually original to the building. They were here in 1915. You can kind of see the detail of the ironwork in it. They're actually old marble stairs, which no one does anymore because it's unbelievably expensive. But I just love the way that the paint had patinaed on the walls. We were gonna keep most of that. Over here is the basement. You can see, again, with the exposed brick on the walls, all of this old school infrastructure. We had our fire suppression system over here, which we were actually going to cover up behind a wall so that you couldn't see that when you were down here in the speakeasy. And then we were gonna have the bar right here, so you can just sit in this long hallway down in the basement and enjoy a nice glass of whiskey. So this little door right here was gonna go into another seating area for the speakeasy. You can tell where they just kind of busted through the brick to get in here. Since it's an older building, it was actually heated by coal firepower. This room back over here is actually where they used to have the coal chute. So you can see the brick on the walls is all covered in soot, and they would bring all of the coal in to fire the building through this little chute right here. I love buying buildings like this because they have an historical component to them. You know, we do ground up development as well, but value add is really what my team and I get excited about and what we love. And this building just leaned into that so well because these older buildings have a character that you just can't build back today. This, in my opinion, is the biggest travesty of the property. It had this beautiful brick and concrete facade. And in the 1980s, when the county bought it, They ended up tearing that off, ripping all of it out, and putting this metal facade on, which doesn't make any sense. Who does that? So these were gonna be micro apartment suites with a hallway kind of running down the middle, right between those columns right there. And they were gonna be about 400 to 500 square feet, kind of perfectly sized units. The crazy thing about Chattanooga's micro apartment market is that it's not that far off from Nashville. We were gonna rent out these 400 to 500 square foot units for about $1,200 a month. So this is that metal exterior skin that they ended up putting on. And we had originally talked about bringing the original facade back, but after seeing this, after demoing the walls out and seeing how extensive they had torn everything out, it's like, man, it's not even worth trying to do it. It's my good friend's signature. Mr. Magoo, nice guy, great guy. Yeah, I mean, as we were going through demo, we were trying to rip out the least amount as possible. But you can tell there were some spots where the plaster that they had used, because they didn't have drywall back then, had just kind of started rotting and falling out. So we were gonna replace that as best as we could. But almost everything original that we could leave, we did, which I think, again, just really adds to the unique architecture of a building like this. I feel like I'm standing back in my room in middle school, like the day before the cleaner gets there and your mom's like, hey, go clean your room. Like, come on, man, that's the house cleaner's job, Mom. This is where the floors start to get even taller. So the ceilings that you've seen up to now have been about, I don't know, 12 feet, give or take. These, I wanna say, get up to about 14 feet. And these were gonna be our more luxurious micro apartments. And I think we're on floor 7 now. You can see the view starts to get pretty wild. Newell Tower is not the tallest building in terms of floors in Chattanooga, but it sits up on a hill, so it is one of the tallest buildings in terms of elevation. Mom told me to stop smoking 2 packs a day. I told her, shut up, Mom. I don't know if you guys knew this, but this is okay. Man, I'm getting nostalgic kind of touring through this property. It makes me, I guess, even more sad that we decided not to move forward with this and had to let it go, but it's in good hands. It's gonna be a fun project for someone, and I'm just glad that we were able to get it to where it is. So this giant contraption over here is the old school chiller system. Most of it sits up on the roof. Back in the day when they installed it, no one was occupying this floor, so they just figured, hey, let's just set it in the middle of the floor and that's totally fine. Well, as you're going through a redevelopment project, this is kind of in the way. This is literally where a kitchen would have been for one of our micro apartments. So we were gonna have to relocate this further towards the back of the space in order to make it work. All right, now we are on the rooftop here, which is, in my opinion, the coup de grace of Newell Tower. As I said, it's not the tallest in terms of stories, but it is one of the tallest in terms of where it sits, the elevation of the property. You just have such a phenomenal view from this rooftop. We were actually planning on turning this into a rooftop bar, which would have been an amenity for not only the residents, but everybody on this side of town that could walk to it, or anybody that just wants to come have a cool drink in a cool spot. We always kind of debated back and forth as to whether or not we were gonna do the rooftop bar. The biggest issue would have been we would have to punch out the current elevator system another floor in order to get ADA accessibility up here. But I mean, you can tell it would have just been an absolutely phenomenal space to hang out in the city. This is one of the reasons we love this building. It's right in the middle of all the action. You're walkable to so much of what's going on here in Chattanooga. We've got the Repertoire Theater right there. UTC, as I said earlier, is 2 blocks away. And you're just kind of in the heart of what's going on in the city. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a little insider trading as to how I look at properties whenever I'm going out and buying them. We have to have an A, B, C, D, E, F, Z plan whenever we're buying it. So when we originally took this property down, it was gonna be all micro office space. And then we studied the market a little bit more and determined that micro apartments would be a good addition. So we kind of scrapped our original plans and started over. The future additional value add to this property, this building, the annex building, which is only 3 stories right now, could be 9 to 12 stories. So we were actually going to add on to that building to bring it up and level it out with the tower as well. All right, well, there you have it for a tour of this amazing property that, like I said, we're not gonna be working on anymore. So it's time for us to say goodbye, and we'll head down to a coffee shop and I'll tell you guys a little bit more about what happened. Let me take you back to January of 21. I was traveling to Atlanta with my architect to do some market research on another project that we were working on in East Nashville and posted on Instagram. I was like, hey, if anybody knows of any off-market deals in the Chattanooga market, I would love to take a look on our way to Atlanta. And one of my followers screenshotted it, sent it to a buddy of his that lived in Chattanooga who called us, set up lunch, and showed us 3 properties that day, one of which was this property here on East 7th Street. So 2 weeks later, we had it under contract and we were moving forward on a deal in Chattanooga. Chattanooga was so much more affordable than Nashville. We bought the building for $41 a square foot. Total purchase price was $1.8 million. My partners and I syndicated the deal as we do on most of our projects. So we raised capital from a group of investors, and a week before closing, our bank, which had a branch here in Chattanooga and had a lot of interest, had already approved the deal, told us that they could no longer do it. You know, when you're in a situation like that, you've got $50,000 in earnest money that's gone hard, like you are not getting that money back. You've already raised the capital from your investors. You do everything you can to figure it out. So we had about 2 or 3 days, ended up negotiating seller financing with the current owners at the time. So we spent about $600,000 over that 18-month period that we owned it on interest carry, soft cost, design cost, development, construction, demo, you name it, we had done it all. We ended up getting an offer off market for 2.5 times what we paid for it, about $4.6 million for the tower. I kind of looked at my investors with the offer, and none of us really wanted to take it because we wanted to do the project that badly, but that was the amount of returns that we were gonna see in 7 years. So we kind of had to just take it and say, you know what, we'll put the capital into another project, call it a win, and move on. So it ended up being a really good failure, as I like to call it. You always have to have multiple exit strategies as you're going through these commercial real estate deals, because plan A, plan B probably won't end up working no matter how much you love them or how much you think they will work. But it really lends itself to maintaining flexibility as a commercial real estate investor. So whenever you're looking at your projects, keep an open mind. Just because you've designed one project doesn't mean that's the only route that that property can take. And as you can see here, we ended up going in a completely different direction, and we actually seller financed it as well. So I've been on both sides of having sellers finance property for me and financing properties for sellers. And it was a very interesting strategy that ended up kind of keeping us involved in the project so that we can kind of see it come to fruition, but also making money being the bank on a deal, which who doesn't want to do that? So stay tuned for more vlogs, like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time. Oh, you thought it was over? No. Gotta tease the next vlog coming up soon. We're gonna have an update on the Peerless Mill, which is the equivalent by square footage of 36 Newell towers.